I hate paying taxes, I hate voting, and I hate not having complete totalitarian control over my own small country. I am right all of the time about all things. If only somebody would listen to me. In my quest to prove this, I played the fun presidential simulator, Suzerain,
Suzerain,
and promptly got my ass kicked. This is a game perfect for humbling that one person in your group who thinks they have all the answers and needs to be taken down a peg. If you just thought you don't have that person, congratulations, you are that person. You disgust me. In Suzerain,
Suzerain,
you play as Anton Rain, the newly elected leader of Sordland, a fledgling democracy trying to recover from revolutions, recessions, and honestly just about everything. It's a bad situation and everyone expects you to fix it. You have control over the budget, directing your cabinet, vetoing Congress, handing out bribes, foreign relations, the secret police, the military, and even the Constitution, all due to your totalitarian predecessor.
Totalitarian predecessor.
You are suggested and highly encouraged to move away from these routes to a more democratic government, but that's all it is. A suggestion. Before you can make meaningful change, or go completely mad with power, you are going to need political allies to get what you want. And trustworthy allies are hard to find in Sordland, mainly because they all want opposite fucking things. To make any meaningful changes during your time in office, you will need to pass legislation through the many political parties of Congress. The good news is, your party is the biggest, most powerful party. The bad news is, this doesn't mean they will support you, and it certainly doesn't mean they like you. Your own party won't be enough, so you will need the support of the left-wing radicals, the right-wing radicals, or the blutish. But nobody cares about the blutish. Bribes help, but you need money for bribes, and nobody has money, like the oligarchs. These guys are happy to help you out, as long as you give them government funds first. Their massive resources could really help you out of a lot of tight corners, but they could also use their money to make your life difficult if corruption isn't your style. Then there's the old guard, who guard the old ways. Who want everything to stay exactly the way it is, and will be pissed every time you try to do just about anything. And that's not to mention all of the many factions in your own cabinet, all of whom have their own agenda and want funding for their own projects, no matter how horribly broke you are. If you haven't realized by now, your decisions matter a lot in this game, from the big ones down to where you had lunch and how you were born. You will need to make a lot of decisions about who you were growing up and how you rose to power with very little context. All of these will come to haunt you sooner or later. I spent half of my playthrough trying to be nice to a guy before he reminded me I helped oust him from power back when I was a child. Everyone can hold a grudge and will bring up policy you passed or vetoed years later when you need a favor.
This is a damn ugly world we live in.
My personal advice is to always tell people what they want to hear one-on-one, and if you disagree with them, immediately gaslight them whenever somebody else walks into the room. This game is not easy. You will likely fail in many ways your first playthrough. Personally, I played through the game my first time around by making as many choices that I would in real life, and trying to keep my terribly thought out campaign promises.
I came up with a really great idea, dude.
Yeah?
I'm gonna play both sides.
I think this turned out rather well, except for the economy sinking into a depression, my cabinet turning against me, a rise in domestic terrorists, an assassination attempt, and my country being invaded.
You know, I was God once.
Yes, I saw. You were doing well until everyone died.
My second run would go much smoother by emulating the Red Tsar himself. After creating my stylish president, I seized the means of production, took control of the media, took all power for myself, engaged in as much corruption with the oligarchs as I could, and you know what?
The people loved me for it.
There is no appeasing everyone. In order to make friends, you will need to make more enemies. Often pairs of people will come asking you to screw the other person over like a pair of whiny children. You can sometimes find a middle road at the expense of pissing off both parties. Remember, nothing upsets people like a good compromise. Your cabinet will always be at varying levels of pissed at you, usually as you follow through your campaign promises of defunding education. You have the ministers of health, education, and police who will constantly pressure you for funds for their personal pet projects of keeping your citizens alive and healthy. There's your minister of defense who also wants money, but he knows that you know he has all the guns, so he doesn't have to ask nicely. Then there's your minister of economy, and your other minister of economy, and two other ministers of something that has something to do with economy. They all want money to make your people less poor, except for the second guy who wants your money to make you less poor. Be good friends with him. The Minister of Foreign Affairs prints out Wikipedia articles about whatever country you're about to visit, and not much else. Near the top is your chief strategist, whose primary strategy is to always encourage you to make every shady deal you can. After all, what could go wrong? Last is your right-hand man, the vice president. He has no qualifications for this role and is a lazy, drunken womanizer, but he's also a good friend who will always have your back. Keep him close always. You could play through the game many times and still miss a ton of content. Just some of the stuff you could do is imprison your enemies, kill your enemy's dog, declare war, divorce your wife, and eat dinner alone with memories of all the atrocities you have committed. The only thing you can't do is play past year 4, as that's when the game ends, no matter how greedily you held onto power. Overall, a fun but humbling game. While I still have dreams of taking over the world, I have to acknowledge it probably isn't the easiest to run it. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. I'll be making more like it soon.